Today, an overview of the Grammy Award-winning multi-instrumentalist, musical director, conductor, musicologist, and label owner, Jordi Savall. This overview will serve as a brief compendium to Savall's background, influence, importance, output, and the physical media I have collected in recent obsession with this music. After stumbling across Savall while researching some early music some time ago, his name came back around with a friend while we were discussing the primal immediacy that certain instrumentation offers. This in stark contrast to some modern assemblages focused solely on formulaic tableaus of guitar, percussion, vocals, or electronics. I'm just now coming up for air after weeks and weeks of listening and exploring Savall's legacy and vision, which has now surged fully into my consciousness. I've spent countless introspective listening sessions over the past few months through this winter season, for which much of this music slots very aptly into place within the confines of, both in mood and timbre. A quick Googling of Savall will yield interviews with the Library of Congress and UNESCO, with profiles and features from prestigious outlets like the New York Times and The Guardian. His presence is calming, like that of a gentle intellectual figure or a tenured professor, always donning a colorful scarf or sweater draped over his shoulders, a trimmed white beard with small spectacles balanced on the end of his nose. While not necessarily a household name in the modern musical context, Savall is a quiet yet dominating figure integral for promoting peace and bridging eras and cultures through the repertoire of their respective musical worlds. Heralded as one of the foremost voices in shepherding the ideologies of early, medieval, Renaissance, and Baroque music to the contemporary Western world, Savall's story begins in the Catalonia region of Spain. Born in 1941, Savall began with training in school choirs, with his formative musical education taking place in the early 60s at the Barcelona Conservatory of Music. After graduating, he moved into studies and mentorships, both in Belgium and Switzerland, focusing on the viola da gamba and other early music stringed instruments. Cutting his teeth with groups like the Ars Musicae de Barcelona, which is an early Catalan historical performance group, Savall next began a musical and marital partnership with vocalist Montserrat Figueras. The two went on to form the Hesperian 20 ensemble in the mid-70s with Lorenzo Alpert and the lutenist Hopkinson Smith. This group focused on interpreting historical works from Spanish influence on Western European music, namely between the 14th and early 18th century, on period-specific instruments like harp, lute, harpsichord, psaltery, and the human voice. Two other notable groups fronted by Savall are the choral ensemble La Capella Real de Catalunya and Le Concert des Nations, which moves the musical needle closer toward the Romantic era of the 19th century. While much of Savall's music is based in proximity to his immediate surroundings of the Iberian Peninsula, France, and Italy, his life has been dedicated to researching and uncovering obscure gems from Hispanic and Mediterranean cultures. His musical explorations often venture into historical significance, dialed into specific regions and people groups, with recordings encompassing traditional works from Arabic, Balkan, Israeli, Afghan, Greek, Moroccan, Japanese, and Turkish vernaculars. The predominant modus operandi production-wise for the bulk of these recordings are what I would describe as natural and present. Nothing is flashy, too heavy, or too bright. There's a true and even balance achieved in all the recordings I've spent time with, the central tenet lying in the clarity and accuracy of capturing the most sincere essence of the instrument and voices in concert together. The connective thread amid all of Savall's recordings is the utter human element shining through as the most salient factor. The tactility both in the quiet details of the human hand interfacing with strings and wood, or the reverb of human voices reflecting and resonating in an acoustical space. This is the whole essence of this music's original intent, to be performed in a fixed and solitary environment, the sound waves vibrating in real time and physically interacting with ears and bodies of those present. Savall's recorded works from the 70s through the mid-90s were primarily on the Astray label, with some titles on Argo, Naive, and the EMI labels respectively. In the late 90s, Savall began his own label, Alia Vox, which was supported by arts funding from Spain. The titles on Alia Vox namely feature the myriad of his own solo works and those collaborations between his various ensembles, all of which exist in strict honor to specific composers' historical bodies of works. The Alia Vox releases are predominantly released on CD and hybrid SACD. To my knowledge, there are only 2 vinyl pressings thus far in the label's 30-plus year existence. Alia Vox titles are scarce in North America, since they appear to not have any distribution in place outside of the EU and the United Kingdom. I was able to track down a dozen or so titles between a few used bin finds here in LA at Amoeba Records, and some used CDs, all from a single source on Discogs who was offloading their collection. The CDs are substantial, housed in heavy digipack-style gatefolds with glossy facades, most of which include very elaborate texts about the historical context, the production and the recording process of the music therein. Their covers feature era-accurate artistic works, evocative and visually representative of the musical spirit accompanying each release. While these physical releases aren't hyper-available in the US, most of Alia Vox's catalog is easily accessible via any digital streaming platform, with the CDs being moderately available on any third-party market. Savall's musical fingerprints are vast, an expansive web of content that reaches nearly 250 recordings currently available that feature either Savall's playing or his musical direction. After hundreds of hours of immersion within this dense yet illuminating catalog of wide-reaching music, I found the more sparsely arranged bodies of work to be the most intriguing to my own taste as a listener, such as the interpretations of the aforementioned viol-based repertoire by François Couperin and Marine Marais. Savall's recent interest also extends into 18th and 19th century compositions, with a gamut of recordings covering both chamber and orchestral works by Mendelssohn, Beethoven, Handel, Mozart, Vivaldi, and Bach. While not all of Savall's recordings fall squarely into my wheelhouse, his dedication and relentless conviction into shedding an accurate light onto somewhat forgotten corners of musical history is alluring and undoubtedly admirable. For anyone curious into investigating what this network of music can offer, I created a playlist on my Substack, featuring a sampling of some of the shining pieces pulled from across this wide catalog. In early 2025, Savall is now 84 years of age and resides just north of Barcelona. I deeply align with his understanding of music's importance to humanity, as he expressed in an interview last year. Remember, music is the most important language of the human being. It is the language that makes it possible for us to communicate with everybody. Music is the first language that we understand. Links to the playlist and more info on Jordi Savall can be found in the description below. Thanks for your interest and for your ear. See you soon.